Hey, welcome back to Cooking with DeeDee's. It's Christmas Day and I have been procrastinating making a gumbo. So today I'm going to make it. I was supposed to make it Christmas Eve. I didn't get to it. And that's because anytime you make a gumbo, you don't want to rush it. You have to have the time available to put it in. You don't make a gumbo without a flat edge wooden spatula. All right? And I got my pot ready. And here's my disclaimer. I'm not from New Orleans. I'm not from Louisiana, but I do live in the South, and I'm Texan, and I grew up in Cali. So I make my gumbo the way I like it, and you can make yours the way you like it. If you like this recipe, then go on and try it, all right? If not, keep scrolling and have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's get in the kitchen and get started.
All right, you want to get a large skillet, and I'm using avocado oil that has garlic in it, so it's flavored. You can use avocado oil with or without the garlic flavor. And don't worry about the measurements. I will have the recipe in the description part of this video for you, okay? All right, your skillet is warmed up. You're going to start with your chicken. I use boneless chicken thighs that I had seasoned and had marinated. And you're not going to cook them 100% in the skillet. This is just to get a little sear on them. And I just use one large pack of chicken thighs. And what you didn't see, I pulled out about 3 of them and made a chicken broth that you'll see me use later, okay? So let each side of your chicken thighs sear in your skillet for about maybe 4 minutes on each side. Max 3 to 4 minutes. Now I take the pot and I clean it again each time. So I have a little bit more olive oil, and now I'm going to cook my sausages. I have 2 different types of Andouille sausage. One of them is from this very popular place that just opened up in Katy, Texas, called The Best Stop. And then I got some, I think it's some Beaumont Andouille sausage. So I use 2 different brands of Andouille sausage. You can use Andouille or smoked sausage. But Andouille sausage, I think I'm saying that correctly, gives it a unique flavor. And you see all that grease? That's why you cook your sausage separately. Don't just put uncooked sausage in your gumbo. It's going to be very greasy. All right, I've drained the oil off and I set my sausage aside. Now, growing up, I really didn't like okra, but okra in African language means gumbo. So to me, you can't have a gumbo without a little bit of okra. And I hate the slime of okra, so what I do, with just a little bit of oil, I fry it for about 10 minutes until I can see very little slime left. And that's so that your gumbo won't be all slimy. All right, I'm done with the okra. Now, this is the most important part of a gumbo, and it takes a lot of time. It's called your roux. And roux is made with your fats and flour. I use a combination of fat. I use about a half a stick of butter, maybe about, a half a stick of butter is equal to half a cup of butter, and about a fourth a cup of some avocado oil. And like I said, I'm using the avocado oil with garlic. And I have some leftover bacon grease from when I fried some bacon this morning. So I have 3 different fats that I'm using in my gumbo. All right, you don't have to use all 3. I just do because I think it gives it a very good flavor. You can pick one fat. Next, I add about 1 cup of flour, and here's the key: you don't want it all lumpy, so have a whisk ready, and as you gently pour in your flour, you're whisking to make sure you get the lumps out. And I forgot to tell you, but it is in the recipe in the description, your burner is on medium-high heat. This is a critical component of making gumbo. You have to make your roux. Now, some people make gumbo without making a roux, and, well, in my opinion, that's not gumbo without the roux. But, oh well, who am I? Now, gumbo roux comes in different shades of brown. I don't care for a blonde roux because it really doesn't look like gumbo when it's blonde like this. So you keep stirring and stirring until you get it the color that you like. Some people like a peanut butter brown. Some like a mild chocolate color brown, and some like a very dark brown, almost like black coffee. Honestly, I'm afraid to get it as dark as black coffee because I'm afraid I'll burn it. So I never let mine get that dark, but I do let it get dark. I'm pouring in a little bit of Worcestershire sauce because anybody who's watched me cook know that's my favorite sauce to cook with. And no, this is not sponsored at all by anybody. Go figure. But anyway, back to topic. I'm stirring. You notice I never stop stirring. I'm sprinkling in a little seasoning, some Cajun seasoning in my roux. And here's something that's most important. Do not leave this unattended. I promise you, you will burn it. So whatever you do before you start cooking your roux, you need to do it. Whatever you need to do, whether it's go to the bathroom, make a phone call, you do all of that before you fool with trying to make your roux, okay? Because if you burn it, you have to throw it out and start all over. Some people say a roux can take up to 45 minutes. To be honest with you, when I make mine, it takes me 20. And I set the timer on my stove many a times, and it's between 18 and 20 minutes for me. So I'm probably could go a little longer if I want it really, really dark. But like I said, I'm afraid of it burning. If you notice, it's slowly but surely turning a darker color. This is not the color of an authentic gumbo. I put in a pinch of salt. We call this a peanut butter color. Now, if I were making some crawfish etouffee, I would probably stop here. This is the color I like my crawfish etouffee. But that's not what I'm making today. I'm making gumbo. So I'm going to keep stirring and stirring until I get the color that I want for my gumbo. All right? Now, they do sell roux in the jar, and I can be very honest, I've never purchased it. I make my own. You see how brown it's getting? Now we're getting to the desired color of roux. And like I said, I won't let it get too much darker than this because I'm afraid that I'll burn it, and that's what I don't want to do. Now you can see I never once stopped stirring this roux. You do not stop. Once you start making your roux, you keep stirring non-stop. And not too fast because you don't want it to splash on you and burn you, all right? But a slow, constant stir. Now, I think I'm about ready to stop right about here. This is a good color for me. Like I said, a lot of people will go even darker. They're braver than I am. I don't want to burn it, so I'm going to stop. This is perfect for me and how I like my gumbo. Okay? Now, to stop the roux from cooking, this is where you add your trinity. Trinity is your bell peppers, your celery, and your onion. Diced up and stir it in. And this stops your roux from cooking. It won't cook anymore. You want to work it in. Just like you were doing with your roux, stirring and stirring, that's what you're doing until your vegetables get like not quite totally translucent, but almost, where they get a little tender. And as you can remember, I said at the beginning, I am not from Louisiana, so my step process is probably most likely different from those you know from Louisiana, but it works for me. Okay? All right, this is looking fine. I'm going to go on now and turn my burner off. I'm going to set this aside and work on the next step, and I will revisit this, okay? And this is called roux, R-O-U-X, the roux. All right, that's set aside. Now, here's the chicken broth that I made last night with 3 chicken thighs. I seasoned it with onions, a little bell pepper, a little Worcestershire salt and pepper. I add that to my gumbo pot, and I'm using a very large pot. And now my chicken, I have diced it up. Not diced it up, I'm sorry. I cut it into chunks. Not too small, not too big. And And some people say, I know those from Louisiana, they say that you either make a chicken and sausage gumbo or strictly a seafood gumbo. Well, remember what I said, I'm from Texas and raised in Cali, so I like chicken and sausage with a little seafood. So that's how I'm going to do mine. A little water, some more of my Cajun seasoning. Not mine, but you saw that, Tony's seasoning. I do have a blend that I make up every now and then. All right, I'm adding 3 dry bay leaves. Some people put fresh. I don't have any fresh. I'm using dry bay leaves. Adding my thyme. A little poultry seasoning. And this is my secret ingredient that I learned from my older cousin. She uses dry shrimp. I use dried, ground up shrimp. Going to add a little extra seafood flavor. Since I didn't make a seafood broth with fresh shells, I'm adding dried shrimp. And don't worry, you won't be able to feel it. It's going to mesh really well. I added some minced garlic. I'm adding a little more of my Worcestershire sauce. Some little black pepper. And that's a little bit of cayenne pepper. You add as much as you like cayenne. You have to be really careful with it. Okay, I'm putting the lid on this, and I'm going to let this simmer for about 30 to 40 minutes. I forgot to add my other kind of Cajun seasoning that I like to add. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some of this broth, and I'm going to add it to my roux that I made. I probably could have just dumped it in a pot, but this is just my little quirkiness on how I cook mine. I most likely could have just added my roux to the big pot of chicken and stuff, but I want it well blended before I add it in with the chicken. Mix it in good. And I only make gumbo maybe 2 or 3 times out the year because it's very expensive and, like I said, it's time consuming. But I do enjoy gumbo. All right, now it's time for me to add my roux to my chicken and broth that I've had simmering for about 30-40 minutes. That was the timer to let me know it's time to add this to my chicken. Not the fire alarm. It's just my timer on my stove. Now stir it in. Mix it well. And that's going to be the color of my gumbo. All right, remember I set my sausage and my okra aside. I let it drain. Now I'm adding that to my large pot of gumbo. Stir it in. And here's another secret ingredient that I like to add to mine. I use the Savioes Dressing mix. I also, if you see my dirty rice recipe, this is the key to my dirty rice recipe. But I like the taste of little gizzards and livers in my gumbo. Just a little bit. It's not strong. You can barely taste it, but it adds a different depth to your gumbo. So I'm going to cook this on the stove. Let it cook for roughly 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes max. Add a little Cajun seasoning. I'm adding a different brand. It's not sponsored, but it's Slap Your Mama. And please don't ever try to slap your mama, because if you have a southern mama, you know what's going to happen if you try that mess. I'm old school and we don't play that. I don't know why they named it that. I guess that's saying it's so good to make you want to slap your mama. All right, I did add a little bit of avocado oil and just a pinch, and some Worcestershire sauce. Give it some flavor. The Savioes dressing mix into my gumbo. Now, this is what my mom did when she made gumbo. When she moved us to Texas, she made us some gumbo. She would add gumbo filet to the pot. I know people from Louisiana say you don't add it to the pot. Let people add it on their own, on their individual bowls. But I'm going to do as my mom did. She added it to the pot, and it's just ground up sassafras leaves. And I understand that was a contribution that the Choctaw Indians added to this dish. And it helps thicken it up. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want it real watery either. And it gives a nice flavor. Shrimp, that's your very last ingredient that you add. You don't want it overcooked because it'll take the flavor out and it will be rubbery. So the last 3 to 5 minutes of your gumbo cooking process, you add your shrimp. Be sure and take out your bay leaves. They've done their job now. Give it a good stir. And voila, your gumbo is ready. And it smells divine, man. This smells delicious. Like I said, I don't add crab to mine because I really don't like wrestling with trying to get the meat out the bone. But if you wanted to add crab, it's best to add some blue crab, okay? Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you how it tastes.
Perfect.